Hi there guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I am Amira of thelittlemushroomcap.com, where I share my quilting journey and quilting tutorials over on the blog and here on the quilting channel. Let's get started today because we have a whole full journey of me quilting a baby quilt using my domestic machine, where I share a lot of tips on how to handle your quilt under the domestic machine. So today I'll be free motion quilting and I'll take you through the process of me quilting this quilt, how I handle the large quilt, so that you'll get all the tips that you need to actually quilt your own quilt. So if you've been practicing your free motion quilting on your sandwiches and ready to kind of move on to the quilt, this is the video that you want to watch until the end, because I sprinkle lots and lots of tips until the very end. But if you're new to free motion quilting, you can watch the video and then have the good inspiration that you are going to be able to quilt your very own quilt using a domestic machine or whatever machine that you have, but you want to start with practicing first. So if you don't know where to start, make sure you check the description down below, where I share with you a free course on how to get started with free motion quilting. Well, without further ado, let's get started. Just before we go, if you do like this video, make sure you click the like button and subscribe at any time of the videos, and let me know in the comment what you've learned from this video. That would really help me and encourage me to make these kind of videos in the future. Thank you so much for watching. Let's get started. For this quilt, I'm using Audible 2026. This is a great color if I'm using a white background quilt. I'm preparing a couple of bobbins and I'm putting them in this bobbin boat, which is super cute. I do check that my bobbins are well wounded. All of them has this kind of taut yet bouncy, and just look at that. It's nice and neat, and you don't have like a messy part of the bobbin. I love Audible thread. If you have the budget, definitely go with good thread. And then I'm going to prepare my quilting foot. If you are new to free motion quilting, this is how it looks like. You may get one with your machine. If you don't have one, then you can check out the link down below where I share a generic one. I'm also going to put this Supreme slider on, and this is the thing that I would not quilt without. I definitely highly recommend that. I'm going to put a link down below to the Supreme slider as well. It helps with the friction between the quilt and also the machine. Now I'm putting my quilt in the machine. I'm going to the center. I am going to make sure that everything is clear behind my machine and also around it. I want to have all the quilts on top of the table so that it doesn't weigh down and start dragging on it. If it weighs down, then it's going to make it so heavy that you are going to struggle with moving the quilt. So you want to make sure that all of them is kind of like stacked up. If you can put it up on a hill, like in front of you and also on the side, that would be best. If you are in free motion quilting bootcamp, make sure you check out some of the other different setup. If you don't have a large machine, I show you how you can get all your quilts leveled up so that the quilt doesn't weigh down. So once you get that all the quilts are all in the same level, then you'll have that ease to move the. Once you got the quilt ready, you are ready to start. I like to start with getting my Audible on. Alexa, play my Audible.
Getting your selection from Audible.
Currently, I'm listening to Project Hail Mary. Let me in the comment if you listen to Audible as well. Now I'm ready to start. I'm putting my needle down and picking up the bobbin thread up. And you want to start your free motion quilting by having the bobbin thread up and holding onto it, because this will allow you to have that clean back and you don't have that thread nesting at the back. It also allows you to clean up really quickly because you can snip off the thread as you go, and this will avoid you having to actually snip off later. So I am going to start quilting this first quarter of the quilt. I'm going to show you a diagram right here where I'm going to show you how I'm tackling this quilt. So I do quilt by quarters, and basically you're going to start from the center out to the other corner. So each corner is going to finish up like that. I always use my fingers to kind of guide me to fill up some areas that I'm looking at close by to me. You'll also notice that I move my palm often. So you want to get as close your palm close to the machine foot, but not too close, of course. Just be careful so that you're not straining your shoulder. You're moving out with the pressure of your palm on the quilt rather than moving a lot. If it's far away, then you're moving a lot from your shoulder, and that will cause you pain. You want to stop every now and then, check out where you are, and just move your palm back close to that area of the foot. If you are pin basting, make sure you take off the pins as you go. I like to put it on this magnetic wand. I'll put a link down below to it as well. I love it because it keeps me organized as I quilt. Now you can see my stitches better as I get close to it, and now you can see that how I move from place to place. I just stop a lot of time. So this is one of the key. You don't want to just go. You want to stop a lot, assess where you are, and kind of think where your path is leading up to. You can also use your finger to kind of trace down where you are going to go. This is kind of like enhancing the memory muscle inside your brain so that you will move the quilt in the right direction. So I am doing this in diagonal. If you are in Free Motion Quilting Bootcamp, you know that I teach you how to make your path in diagonal so that you can actually cover the whole quarter easily. So the way you practice is the same way that you're going to apply it on a real size quilt. Okay, so I'm going to continue finishing up this quarter, and basically I'm just keep on going to do the same pattern, which in this case I'm doing these square loops. I love this design. It's a very easy design, and you see that I'm always shifting the quilt and then kind of like straightening things up so that things are easier for me. So you want to be able to kind of stop often and kind of assess. It's going to come to you as second nature as you practice a lot of quilts. So I don't really think about it as much. It's just like driving. Once you're practicing, you kind of like focus a lot on those things, but once you get there, you don't have to think. It's just a second nature to you. So this is the same thing with Free Motion Quilting. I absolutely highly recommend that you try and practice a lot of this. You will eventually get to the place where you are really confident on finishing up your quilt yourself. I definitely know that because I started not in a real good place, but I can say that now I'm pretty confident of finishing up my own quilt. If I can do it, you can absolutely do it too. So if you want to quilt, make sure you try and practice. I definitely think that you can. Drop me a comment down below if you are practicing, and I would love to cheer you up to actually keep on going. You will eventually get to the stage where you're confident to finish a quilt in a day. This one I did over several days just because I have a small amount of time to quilt in a day. I'm quilting this in 20 to 30 minutes time frame. So this is you will need to take a lot of breaks. So even though you're doing it quilting in a day, I do recommend it that you take a lot of breaks. After 20 minutes, go and have a coffee outside and just, take a lot of breaks, because it will kind of like take a toll on your body if you keep on going. So I am just finishing up this part of the quarter. As you can see, I am moving a lot of the quilts, and as I'm getting closer to the edge, it does get easier. You can see that it's get flatter at the inside of the throat of this machine because you are getting closer to the outside of the quilt, and it just gets easier. So you tackle the hardest part in the center, and then as you move out to the edges, it gets easier because then you don't have so much in the throat of the machine. For as long as you always have the area to actually ease out some of the bulk, you should be fine. You should not have problem with any folds or plaits that you don't want, or like bubbles area that is unquilted. So you want to always make sure that you are quilting all the center part first and leaving the edges free so that you can just smooth it out as you go.
So as you can see, there was a kind of a trend like go, 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 stop, go, 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 stop. Like you are going to go at that rhythm, and I'm just going a bit fast forward right here so that you don't have to go through all that process, but you get the idea. So I wanted to show you the real life time of that quilting process so that you kind of have an idea. You will have that kind of rhythm, like you go, go, go and stop and then shift, go, go, go and stop and shift. Now I'm showing you the edges. So once you get to the edges, you want to just be able to bring that pattern outside of the quilt top and then getting back in. Now you want to be careful so that you don't have the quilt top fabric kind of folded in. So I'm just going to go about with the same pattern and just going over, like spilling it over across the quilt top outside. It doesn't matter, you are going to be trailing this off, but it just brings that pattern. It's not like you're trying to just finish a narrow column, so that the pattern kind of overflows and still maintain that randomness and all over quilting. So this is what I'm doing at the edges. I'm kind of bringing it outside, and I'm trying to secure that edges stitches as well. That's really good to just go about if you can do that. Okay, sometimes you can go one whole quarter with just one go if your bobbin will let you, and also if the you won't find yourself stuck at the edge. As you can see now, I am at the edge, and you can see all the one on my left right now is all quilted. But if you have an area at the edge and you find yourself on the left side or in the center that is not quilted, I don't want you to go ahead from the outer edge to the inner edge, to the inner part, to quilt it. So if you look at this diagram right here, you don't want to do that, because that will cause you to have folds and bubbles in the center of the quilt. So you want to be able to stop and then restart from the center. Don't worry, continue watching this video. I'll show you how I do it in this quilt. As you can see, now I am at the corner and I finished like the whole area of this side, and you can see I finished up to the corner right there, and now I'm moving along, just finishing off all the edges, and then I'll finish up on this area, and then I'll finish my first quarter of this quilt. So that is how you work from quarter to quarter. And now that you've done this one, you're going to turn it around and finish the other quarter the same way you did this one. See, mine is not as perfect. Just remember that when you get it washed, it's going to be okay. You always have to take a break. You can hear my little kid is coming to me already, so I'm taking a break right now. Always just take a lot of break, especially when you're free motion quilting a large quilt. So I'm just turning off my machine and let's have it for another day. So this is another day. I am wearing a different clothes. Now I'm just continuing where I left off. So I am just continuing that little bit of the quarter because I still have a little bit more to actually finish, and this is just a little bit on the quarter side of the left side. So I'm just finishing that off before I kind of turn the quilt. You can watch me turn the quilt, and then we start over a new quarter, and then the whole thing kind of repeats itself. It's just that easy. So any size quilt, this is the way you do it. You do it in quarters so that you have to tackle it. So every time I finish a quarter, I check my bobbin, because usually for this kind of size quilt, I know that one bobbin equals to 1 quarter. And now I'm just going to back and just going to go with this chicken run. I do have a little bit of more bobbins, and I just want to finish that off. So I'm turning the quilt and I'm starting again from the center. You see, this part of the quarter is going to be now the bottom quarter. So if you look at this diagram, now I'm actually tackling this quarter, but I'm going to do the same motion again. So if the way I'm doing the first quarter, this is the same way that I'm going to finish the second quarter. Okay, so I'm just going to continue on with this quarter of the quilt, and again, starting from the center, you can see this is exactly the same way as I started with the first quarter just now. So you want to be able to just complete that. If you did that the other quarter in probably 1 hour, you'll probably have another hour here. So remember to just take a lot of break because it can, be wary on your shoulders and your body. I am a bit far from the machine. If you can see from here, it's because I have this camera right in front of me. Usually I'm a bit closer. So the closer you are to the machine, it does kind of help you reduce that shoulder movement. I am far here just because I am recording this, okay?
If I can fill up the whole quarter with just one go, that would be very beneficial. But if you find yourself getting right to the edges, finish off at the edges and try and start again at the center.
So here I'm going to show you how I start. If I am finding myself at the edges and I find that I have still some areas in the center that I haven't quilted, I am just going to stop at the edge. So I'm just going to stop right at the edge. I'm going to just, instead of going back, because that will cause some folds, so I'm just going to stop right there and I'm going to assess where I'm going to restart. So sometimes you have to restart right from the center, but in this case I just have this small area that is unquilted. Instead of going back in and that will cause that fold, I'm going to restart from this kind of like a new center. So it's going to be like a new center. I'm going to quilt from this way out, okay? So just as with other starting, I'm going to hold on to the bobbin thread and start off. I am going to leave the thread on because I want to be able to kind of come back to that place and then continue on later on. So you can see that I'm not snipping off directly just because I have just a small area to quilt and I know that I will snip it off once I got that done later on. So I'm just going to use my finger to kind of guide me to where I am planning. So this is just a small area that I want to finish off just before I go back to the center part of the quilt. So you can see me filling up this area as I go. And this is the way that you want to do every time you find yourself at the edge, because you just don't want to have that. So this is the thing that I'm going to continue on later. You see I'm leaving this thread kind of like there so that I know where to start over again later when I finish to the edge. So now I'm going to go all the way to the edge and then I'm going to stop right there and restart from that center where we started just now. So another thing that you have to be aware of is the backing. Sometimes the backing do fold over, so you just want to make sure the backing is also flat as you go. So at the edges, this is really something that I usually do as well. So I kind of stitch up the backing as it's folded. So you want to make sure that the backing is also kind of flat as you go. So you see now I'm starting over. Now you have that area quilted. I'm going to go over this area to just finish off that. So I am restarting from the place where we started just now. So you can see that thread is coming over, so I'm just going to go back to that and I'm going to stitch a couple of stitches, secure the stitches over, like over the previous thread, so that you have a couple of stitches that is overlapping, and then continue on from there. So from there you don't see any kind of like start and ends. Basically the motif kind of flows over and you don't know where you start actually. So that is the exact way how you start from the center as well. So I just want to show you right here. I am going to pick up the thread again. I'm going to go over, this is a couple of stitches over the previous stitches, and then just continue on with the motif. You are going to snip off this at this point just to make sure that everything is cleaned out, and then just finish it off. This is the same thing that I would do at the center of the quilt if you're starting over from the center of the quilt.
And I'll continue until I get a finished quilt. Now once you got your finished quilt, just enjoy it. Don't over criticize yourself. You've done a great job. If you like this video, make sure you drop a comment, tell me what you've learned, and don't forget to click like, subscribe, and turn on the notification button. Also, please watch other videos where I share more tips. See 2 of these videos right here where I share more tips on free motion quilting. With that, thank you for watching. Have a good day. Have a good quilting day. See you. Bye-bye.